Hi, my name is Andrea Kuipers, and I'm here with QGITS.
Hey, my name is Anil Pattni. I'm here with QGITS and also OC Hackers, and today we'd like to introduce Joe.
Hi, my name is Joe Caravella with Caravella Aerospace, and I'm here talking with QGITS and to talk about my roadable aircraft.
Cool.
Alright, Joe. So how old were you when you first became interested in aviation?
Wow, I've always been interested in aviation as long as I can remember. I grew up underneath the flight pattern for Dulles Airport, so I was always seeing airplanes flying overhead. And
Wow.
I would say around 8 years old I knew I was going to be in aerospace.
Neat.
Cool. So Joe, how did you come up with the idea for like a motorcycle and combining it with a car and then having a flying vehicle out of that and at that young age, and what was your motivation for wanting to build that? Like, can you tell us a little bit about that?
We've asked about 3 questions in there. So let's see. Why flying cars? Why roadable aircraft? I commuted from Virginia to Indiana to go to school at Purdue. On one of those trips, home or back to school for vacation, I got a speeding ticket when I was clocked by an aircraft. The irony of being ticketed by an airplane while studying aerospace engineering was too much for me to handle. So the rest of the trip, I was starting to think about how to make the car I was driving also fly. Now, flash forward after 2 degrees and 10 years in the rocket industry, I say, okay, I've had enough of that. It's time to pursue my passion for aviation. I did a year of experimenting and then started with a clean sheet of paper on the most affordable way to build a roadable aircraft. And it led me to a motorcycle power plant, and you shuffle around other design decisions, and you end up with 2 wheels in front, 1 wheel in back, and a folding wing, and you now have a street-legal motorcycle that's also an FAA registered experimental aircraft.
Wow, that's amazing.
So you were at Rocketdyne for 10 years, correct?
Yes, after graduating with my master's degree in aeronautical and astronautical engineering from Purdue, I came to work at Rocketdyne in Canoga Park, California. I worked on a variety of rocket engine designs, most notably the linear aerospike engine, which was the power plant for the X-33, which was a subscale technology demonstrator for a single-stage to orbit reusable launch vehicle.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that is a mouthful. I can't repeat that back. Yeah.
So I guess, Joe, one of the previous innovations that you had prior to this flying car was your jet-powered skateboard, right? Did you get a ticket for that, or what was your motivation for like wanting to build that? Like,
in high school, for a science fair project, I wanted, me and a friend of mine, we wanted to understand, what are the implications of having a jet-powered vehicle. It sounds cool, and it could go fast. So it turns out, back in the 50s, I think Chrysler worked on a jet-powered car. And the experiment that we did was to look at 2 different turbine designs and figure out which one was most appropriate for the skateboard application. So it wasn't really jet-powered per se, because it didn't use a gas turbine engine. What we did is we simulated a gas turbine engine with a ducted fan, powered by a model airplane engine. And then to that ducted fan, we tested both a radial flow and a tangential flow. With that ducted fan, we tested both a radial flow and an axial flow turbine to figure out which one drove the skateboard the best.
wow, that's awesome. I'd love to see that. At some point, like that'd be great.
Me too, but it's long since taken apart, and we tried, subsequent to that experiment, we took the power plant off of that and tried to make a half-hovering, one-wheeled skateboard. That was a little bit less successful.
That's awesome. I like it.
So Joe, what advice could you give to our young new entrepreneurs who want to start a project similar to the flying car? Not another flying car, of course, but something similar.
Well, you used the E word. Innovation and entrepreneurialism, is that the right way to say that? Entrepreneurship and innovation are sometimes hand in hand and sometimes not. I have really been focusing on the innovation side and the engineering and the execution of the idea. The entrepreneur side is how to make your ideas turn into a successful business. Unfortunately, I'm not the expert in that yet.
Right.
Still focusing on the technical side of things. So, what have I learned that could apply to your question? Intellectual property is very important. Intellectual protection is very expensive. So you really have to balance how much you want to spend on, let's say, patenting, for example, versus how much you want to spend on getting your product to the market first.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, of course, with innovation, that's obviously much more important when you have a flying car than, I guess, entrepreneurial.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, in the end, as an engineer, I can claim success when the prototype flies. But as an entrepreneur, I can't claim success until I have a profitable business. And that's something this scale will probably require more than a team of one.
Right. Well, it's a good thing you have your dad working with you, right?
Yes,
and
indeed.
you said he's more into the marketing side of it, or?
Correct.
Right.
He's like, right now, essentially a silent business partner. The business is a sole proprietorship at the moment, and really all the help that I get is through volunteer participation. And so I don't pay my dad any salary, he's really excited about what we're doing, and he wants to see it be as successful as possible.
Yay! So go on his website and donate lots of money.
Another aspect of entrepreneurship that I think I've learned along the way is be very careful when you mix entrepreneurship and innovation. There are time and place for both.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in 2008, with just a rudimentary mock-up and a design concept, we went to Oshkosh and exhibited as a company. It might have been a little early to do that. For us, it made sense because we really wanted to get the word out to let people know that there are other good ideas out there, and we also wanted to get a lot of feedback. Not only from the customer side of things, but from other people that had already built kit airplanes. Because we're a new company, and we're new into this adventure, and
Right.
help is always good.
Absolutely.
The punchline there, though, is you have to be careful in deciding when you want to take your product out of the garage and into the public spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it too soon, there are liabilities. If you do it too late, you run the risk of somebody beating you to the market.
Right. Lots of good advice.
We'll see.
So Joe, I guess one of my next questions is you decided to take the crowdfunding approach, which seems to be getting more and more popular, as opposed to taking VCs or having VCs invest in your company.
Sure.
Can you explain why you decided to do that, and then what you've learned about the crowdfunding process in terms of what are the successful dynamics of getting funded through the crowdfunding platform?
So from day one, I didn't want to have, say, the burden of standard investors that are going to drive prematurely to a product, or to lead to promising a certain specification before we knew we could deliver it. So that meant I wanted to do all of the engineering before making promises to the customer. And I thought that the best way to do that would be to be self-funded. The decision to go to crowdfunding, while we always had the ability for the public to participate, and either through promotional products like t-shirts or strictly through donations, that's always been a part of our web presence. But we haven't really started the standard crowdfunding campaign yet. Part of the reason is to develop some credibility. Having the prototype come along this far is a big step in that direction, and now we're hoping we can get people excited to help us fund the completion and the flight testing of this first prototype. So, Kickstarter is a good place for information on how to be successful in the crowdfunding environment, and they win when their projects win. So they've been a good resource for information and how to take the approach. We're trying to kind of optimize for our purposes the crowdfunding model, so we don't quite fit into the standard players, into their model. So we're hoping to do it all on our own website, on our own web platform.
That's really smart. I think that's a great idea because then you kind of utilize all of the power that crowdfunding has, but you also steer it the way you want it, and you have that control over
Correct.
how it's going to completely get.
Well, it's really a trade-off. I mean, the as we've talked to a lot of different people and talked to serial Kickstarters or serial crowdfunders, there are folks that go to the name sites and look to see what people are doing, and they use that as a catalog of things they might want to support. So there is value there, but it's hard to put a dollar sign to that value. The basic aspect of crowdfunding is you reach out first to your family and friends and hope that they're excited enough not only to support you, but also to tell their family and friends about this exciting thing that they've already supported. So that aspect of it is really on your shoulders regardless of the platform you choose to do that with.
That's true.
So I'm a nerd at heart, and I love the fact that you relate the CaraVellair to a real life transformer. How did you come up with this design? How did you come up with that idea?
Well, it's a real challenge to have something small enough to drive on the road, but yet have big enough wings to fly at a reasonable and controllable speed. So you end up looking at all sorts of sliding and folding mechanisms, just like the Transformer toys we played with as children. You gotta hide the wings somewhere, you gotta hide the tail somewhere. So while this doesn't transform into a robot, having an airplane transform into a car is...
Right, that's still huge. Were you a big fan of Transformers, or...?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Of course, my favorite was the little red Lamborghini.
Right.
I can't remember if that was a Decepticon or not. But,
I think it was a Decepticon.
yeah, could be.
Yeah.
So Joe, I guess one of the main questions that I'm sure everybody's dying to know is, when is this flying car going to be, or this prototype going to be in the air? When are you? What potential dates or how long a period of time are you thinking that we're predicting it will be?
We've got between 1 and 2 years before the prototype gets in the air, and that will require some assistance to get there that fast. With a slower or longer funding profile, that would require me to pursue other full-time employment to help fund this. That time frame stretches out.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, I think we have one more, yeah.
Yeah.
So, with the airline industry taking such a hit, how do you think that the CaraVellair, did I just say that right? Yeah, okay. How do you think that the CaraVellair will help increase awareness for pilots around the world?
Well, this is an interesting proposition with airlines. The Roadable aircraft is ideally suited to trips between 1 and 500 miles in terms of being the best choice of transportation options. The best thing that Roadable aircraft and the CaraVellair are going to do for pilots is grow the pilot pool, if you will. We want this airplane driving on the highway so people that aren't pilots and children who can become pilots will see, hey, there are airplanes that I can drive somewhere and be even more useful. So by exposing a broader portion of the community to general aviation, we hope that it will not only inspire them to participate, but also give them an awareness and maybe an appreciation and tolerance for their local community airport.
Fantastic, yay!
Cool. Well, I think that's our last and final question. I guess one other question I was going to say is, do you think that in the future that the way that Google have autonomous cars, can you see autonomous planes in the air, transporting people across, and would that be safe or?
Well, the technology certainly exists today for automated flight. My understanding is essentially with commercial aircraft, they can be completely automated, takeoff all the way to landing. The taxiing part I'm not so sure about, but essentially when you get to the runway, you hit go, that airplane can take itself and land itself at its destination. So the technology's there. Scaling that down weight-wise and cost-wise to the general aviation market, there are certainly steps being made that direction. I expect that it will be commercially available for general aviation. I suspect that autonomous flight will be commercially viable for general aviation aircraft in our lifetime for sure.
Cool. That's Awesome! I can't wait. I would like to place my order now. Just kidding. But that's great. Well, that's Joe, and Joe, your website address. I think everybody needs to go and donate to Joe so that we can get this aircraft off the ground, in the air, and then we can have it in our homes at some point. But your
Less
email
traffic.
address, and, I mean your website address, and how can people contact you?
The website is caravella.aero, caravella.aero. The .aero is a domain strictly for aerospace companies. And there's contact us and crowdfunding and all that can be found at that web address, as well as links to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel.
Brilliant. And are you on Twitter too, or?
I'm not on Twitter yet.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yes. Brilliant. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
And of course, for more information, go to our website, QGITS.org.
Thank you.